We're back with another episode of Bum and Bummer, and today we'll be discussing the MLB's latest plans to return for the 2020 season. Do you guys think this plan is feasible?
I think that the plan, as of right now, is borderline feasible. Obviously, the league and the Players Association have had their recent quarrels about disagreeing regarding pay, and it's been really disappointing to watch as a diehard baseball fan who has been missing out on baseball for the last 3-4 months. And it's not even a health issue. It's a money issue of billionaires fighting with millionaires. So that's tough to see. But in terms of the feasibility of the current plan, it could work. But the problem is that we don't know how it's actually going to be staged yet. You know, they've drafted these long proposals and they've gone into great detail about certain public health restrictions that have to be abided by, and how to stage each particular game and all the testing procedures. But there are a bunch of unanswered questions and the time is ticking. You know, like, we're already in June and guys haven't even reported yet. And then there's going to be spring training and a season, and they need to be done by the end of September. So I don't know. It just, you know, like, you have to have hope, but it doesn't look too great right now.
I actually like how Aaron said borderline feasible. I think that's a good way of putting it. Although over the past week, there has been a little greater sense of optimism with the deal coming between the Players Association and the MLB. And the players are reportedly set to vote in the coming days on the league's offer of a 60-game season. And some notable components of, like, proposals, like, as Aaron said, there have been proposals being thrown around for the past 6 weeks. So we don't really know when it's going to end. But some of the components that both sides seem to agree on that most likely will be in the final proposal include extensive health and safety protocols for players and, like, the team personnel, larger rosters for teams. Another one that was really interesting that I actually like is the universal designated hitter that everyone seemed to agree on, with an expanded playoffs as well, with reportedly as many as 16 teams. And what I thought was interesting about this part was that they said they wanted this to be for this year and next season, like the 2021 season. And Aaron was talking about the season ending in September, so they actually said some dates that they had in mind. They're thinking of an opening day, well, with this proposal, between July 15th and July 20th, and having the regular season end at the end of September. I think they said, like, around the 27th or something, and having the World Series end late October, which it usually does. Like, so they would honestly end up working out if they can get a deal done by the end of this month, which I think they have to in the next week, honestly.
I want to hit on a few things that you said just quickly. I think the DH and the expanded playoffs. So first, the DH. I think the universal DH has been a long time coming. Every time I think about the fact that the AL doesn't have, or the NL doesn't have a DH, I always think back to Adam Wainwright tearing his ACL when he was in the prime of his career, literally on a bunt, because that's all pitchers, for the most part, go up to the plate to do. You know, if there's a guy on first or a guy on second, just to move him over. So I think that's been a long time coming, and it's been really beneficial in the AL. And then the expanded playoffs definitely are really important for the league, especially this year, because they're going to be losing a ton of money at the gate, and to be able to generate any other potential extra revenue through TV rights. I know they just signed a big new deal with Turner. So obviously the value of broadcast rights for the MLB, even though the league's a shit show right now, is still very considerable. But you need to continue to draw excitement to the sport, especially when your average age of the fan is in its 50s. And I definitely think that the atmosphere that playoff baseball brings is one that could warrant an extended playoffs.
I'm sure everyone's heard that this week there have been recent, like, coronavirus outbreaks at multiple spring training sites, specifically the Phillies, and it's started creating a sense of urgency in regards to the negotiations between the MLB and the players union. I think in total it was around like 40 players and staff members testing positive last week in total. But one thing that the proposal actually mentioned was they would have a regional schedule to reduce travel for the league, which would mean like teams in the AL East would only play each other, and teams in the NL East. So you can have like those 10 teams in like, I guess, their own kind of bubble, and then do it with like the other divisions as well, which I think would actually be a pretty good idea. I think that's one way they can try to make it work with and minimize these outbreaks.
So I like the neutral site environment. The only problem is that one of the, because thinking about like the grapefruit versus the cactus leagues, and how that could work, and just splitting up the two leagues based on where they train for spring training would be smart. But with everything that's been going on in Florida over the past week or two, and the NBA and the MLS, who were supposed to have their leagues there for the remainder of their seasons, in starting at the end of July, going into August and September and on, I think that it would be pretty difficult for them to stage it there. I think Arizona could definitely still be interesting, but I like the idea of having it in a spot where cases have been going down, like in New York. I know some of the players have been training on the Yankees and the Mets. They've been training in the New York area.
Yeah.
But I still like the neutral site environment, just because the more you travel, the more opportunity you have to spread the virus. If you maintain this like tight-knit bubble.
I don't know if you saw what Governor Cuomo said, but I'll read his quote. I think New York now is especially attractive compared to the other states because we have such a low transmission rate, and this is the state that is ready, willing, and able to partner with sports teams so that they can play. So do you like kind of agree with what he's saying, that they're willing to partner with the MLB more than other teams are?
Yeah, I completely agree with him. I think New York is one of the best states possible right now. They've had like, I don't know, I keep myself in check with all of this news. So New York has had like under 1% transmission or about that for a week straight, and they've had record highs testing all week. So clearly it's one of the safest states in the country right now. Cases have been going down sharply, which most of the country cannot say. So I think that it's definitely a location that leagues should honestly be looking at to kickstart their seasons.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that New York would definitely be a great spot. I think that Cuomo in particular has done a great job through all of this. He's been very transparent with citizens of New York, and the transmission rate and total cases has continued to gone down. So I think he's worth trusting. He's been transparent through all of this, and at the onset he was very wary of potentially expediting the process, and has been very smart about this phase reopening. So if he has confidence that he could potentially partner with teams to stage like a neutral site environment for leagues to be able to stage their events and teams to be able to compete, I think he's definitely worth being taken up on that.
Yeah, he's already said that he's already going to allow like the Yankees and the Mets to play games at home without fans, obviously.
Mm-hmm. The only issue I think would be if New York was a spot for a neutral site. I don't know where you would have them stay. New York is very, very tight knit. It's predominantly apartment buildings. There's no like complex, that you'd see down in Orlando where they could just like the MLB and the NBA and the MLS could just post up at like Disney's worldwide complex, at the ESPN headquarters, and just stage their events there, and they'd have more real estate to work with, like in the New York metropolitan area, specifically where the Mets and Yankees play in the Bronx and Queens. I think it'd be very difficult to create a bubble-like environment for like all those players to stay at once and not leave.